Well, hey, this is Mike and welcome to the shop. Today we have a 135 that came in. This one has a bad barrel. We're going to go through the gun, do our thing to it, tune it, check it, cycle it, and this one's getting rebarreled. Now I have started the video already and I lost the clips, so we're starting from scratch. But this time I have the barrel outside of the barrel block. Now on this QE barrel, they are 10.5 inches, but this particular one is all catchy right here where the barrel block area is. I mean, it's really bad. Then by the time the pellet gets to the midway of the bore, it's just total free fall and there is no choke. But at any rate, I did a little thing for you so you can have a visual on this. I got a skinny rod, it's all smoothed out on the end, and I made a mark. I don't know if you're going to be able to see it right here in red, so you can see how long the barrel is. And I got a little flag there so you can see when the rod drops, you'll have a visual. But I have some JSBs and some Craftsman pellets. Now, if you're happy with your gun, that's great, enjoy it. If you want more accuracy out of the gun and you don't know why your gun's accurate, you may want to clean the barrel and do what I'm doing here so you can tell what's going on with your barrel. Then you can make a decision. Get a different gun, send it in to get rebarreled. It's all up to you. But anyway, we have the barrel, we got some JSB pellets. I'm going to get it in the breech. And I got a little tool to help get it down into the bore just past the breech. It makes it a lot easier rather than using your rod. So here we go, let's go do it. I got a 45 degree here. Now some guys like to do it on the vertical. I think that it's not fair on the pellet because you got the weight of the rod pushing the pellet. But if you want to do it on the vertical, knock yourself out. But if you have a light pellet to bore fit, you may not know it because the weight of the rod may be pushing the pellet. Just depends on how quickly that rod falls. But anyway, let's do this. And again, it's just choppy. It's so horrible, it's ridiculous. Now, I'm not saying your barrel's like that. I'm just saying that's what's happening here, and that's why this gun is sent into the shop. Now, for a visual, here's our red mark. This is how much we have left to go before we are outside of the barrel. Like I said, midway, and then she drops. Now let's do a Craftsman pellet, which are harder. So now your Craftsman pellets are harder, but their sizes on them vary. They're all over the map. Most guys will clean them and they'll spritz them with the WD-40 and very, very, very light coat them so they don't oxidize. And basically, they will sort their pellets, okay? But let's do this one. Choppy and hard, it's ridiculous. And there for the visual, we're right here. That's how much barrel we have left to go before we're out of it. Alright, so there. That barrel is no good. Now you could possibly put a choke on that barrel and maybe that'll help you out. And you could possibly, on this particular one, try to get that and work that smooth, some barrel polish. But this is so rough, I doubt if that's even going to touch it. So let's talk about this gun, then we're going to get to the main clip of actually what we did with the gun. We have a new low-to-Walther barrel, and by the time the machining process is done, we got down around 16.25 inches in length. Sometimes it's less, it depends on what happens when we go to machine a barrel, right? We're doing crowns and faces, or we're doing the breech end area, and something has to be redone because it's not up to my specs. Excuse me. And that makes the barrel shorter. Or if I want a shorter barrel, then I'm going to have a shorter barrel, and we're going to start with that. But you probably could have went down to 14 inches with no problem on a gun like this. But the thing about a gun like this, you have so much power, right? And then this shot cycle on a powerful gun like this needs a good proper pellet to bore fitting barrel, because that all works together with the shot cycle. And the proper length of the barrel is as long as the pellets in that bore to work with the shot cycle. It's not just do what you want and aim as you please. These things need to come together and work as a team. If the pellet's outside of the barrel quicker than it needs to be because it doesn't have a proper pellet to bore fit, what needs to go on with the shot cycle isn't happening. And your gun's going to fire, your pellet's going to fire, but it's not going to be as smooth and come around the way it's supposed to come around again as a team. I keep repeating myself because these are the things that need to be said. Now, a lot of guys are out there shooting them, they don't know anything, they're just having fun. That's great. If you're enjoying your gun, knock yourself out. I am trying to give you the information that goes with these guns. Now, we also have our own thing that we do to these guns besides that, but this one's getting rebarreled. Well, enough said. I have another clip that we're going to get into. Let's get into that and talk more about the gun there. Yeah, I can use my trusty remote. Alright, well, here's our 10.5 inch QE barrel that we just got done looking over the clip. And let's get rid of that. Move in a little closer. So this one we rebarreled from 22 cal to 25 cal, which is a good thing on this gun. We also cleaned it all up and Cerakoted it. Now, as far as the barrel goes, it's done, it's cured, it's ready to go. Let's see, you might be able to see the barrel through there. Maybe if I turn it this way. So that has to get drilled out where the barrel pivot bolt is and the pin. And then a pin has to be made, and then it has to be pinned. But anyway, it's a Lothar barrel. It came in around 16¼ inches by the time we were all done. I'm going to see if I can go this way. You know, I can't zoom in because I only have two hands, but I'll try to move in a little closer. There's our crown. Obviously, we didn't want to Cerakote the crown, so it's been taped over. So the gun's been Cerakoted, nice, and stripped down, sandblasted, Cerakoted, and then after that, we clear coated it with a high gloss. It's nice, I like it. Now, the Cerakote is a glacier, black glacier Cerakote. Looks like glass, really nice. And there's the barrel block and the barrel. Now, for the power plant, it did have a vortex gas ram, and they opted to get rid of it, even though I do rebuild them. But he wanted a spring, so we gave him the aftermarket vortex spring, which I highly recommend if you're going to go spring. And then we made our own custom, properly fitting 2-piece Delrin spring guide. We have our own seal for this gun, and that's going to be put together also. Now, just for the heck of it, since it has these 3 pins that are going to go in the back, I said, hey, why don't we paint them red? Since I was doing some red Cerakote, and you can see that red shroud over there. But just in case he doesn't like it, we have these 3 original ones done in black. We also have a handbrake that we did also, along with some other stuff here. But anyway, we're going to go through this gun, get it all together, complete it, tune the trigger, the whole 9 yards. And then we're going to adjust this brand new barrel. And we are going to use a zeroed out scope where the reticle is at its dead center. We're going to mount it. We are going to shoot at 18 yards. And then we're going to find out where this thing is hitting on the board while we aim at that bullseye. Then we're going to start to shift the barrel so that the point of impact shifts, and we'll do that by slowly bending the barrel. And when we're all done, we'll have a zeroed out scope mounted on the gun where when you aim at the bullseye, you're hitting the bullseye, so everything is dead on with the zeroed out scope that's been mounted to it. But anyway, that's where we're at. Stay tuned for some more clips. Not sure what they're going to be, but take care and we'll see you there. Alright, well, here we have the 135. It pretty much is almost done. After this video clip, we're going to run it over to Chrony. Let's take a closer look at this gun here. So she's been redone. We have a vortek aftermarket spring with a 142 wire. We have our own custom piston seal on it, which makes the big difference. And we also have it redone in a Walther .25 cal barrel. Then we took it and Cerakoted it in a glacier black, and she looks pretty nice. The rear pins, you may have noticed, are done in red, just to give it a little something to pop, to let you know that this gun has been customized. Now, I did some red the other day on this Diana 20 cal rebarrel. We basically took it and did our thing to it, customized it, and had some paint and thought, well, let's do the pins in red, and I'm glad I did. Now the gun has a little bit of a touch of something special. So let's get under the Chrony and see what she does. This is going to be nice. All right, well, we have our 135 and the Chrony's all set up. We're going to do only a couple. We're going to use the Air Arms 25.4 grain pellets. Also going to put one over the barrel block when we go to shoot. Now on your end, you can watch the Chrony, you can listen to the shot cycle, as well as the movement of the gun. On my end, I got to try not to get a Chrony error. So 741.2. All right, let me put one on top of the barrel block and do that. So let me get that set up. Of course, the barrel block's slippery. It's been Cerakoted. All right. Safety off. Now I gotta settle down. Error. See that? I got an error. So the pellet is obviously still in the barrel block. We'll shoot that. And we'll reset our Chrony. I got to bend down on my knees when I shoot this every single time. That's a bit of a pain. 7:30. But anyway, there she is, nice and smooth and clean. That's about right for what I need to get out of this gun at my elevation. Take care and see you in the next one. Well, we got the gun where she's starting to group, and they keep getting better and better. So after shooting and adjusting, you can see here that they started to group, and then we did a little bit more shooting and adjusting, and they were grouping tighter like that, and a little bit more shooting and adjustment, and finally we got the gun honed in. Now, when the gun has the barrel seasons later on, it should even get even better. But that's our Hatsan 135 and a Rebarrel 25 cal with a vortek spring, a custom spring guide, and a extra goodies put into it. Really nice, powerful, smooth shooter. All right, let's go to another clip. All right, well, we are on our last clip here with the 135. We can wrap this whole video up. So there's the gun. She's honed in. Has a nice low-to-Walther barrel with a really good pellet to bore fit, and the barrel length's coming in at around 16¼ inches. Now, I could have went shorter, maybe down to 14, and still been okay with the shot cycle and the swept volume, but you wouldn't want to go any less than that with a gun this powerful. Now, as far as the barrel being 16¼ inches, it's not going to sway out there, or barrel whip, as some people call it. But it's going to give you a nice way of cocking the gun. Now, the spring does have a little bit of a break-in period. It's a vortek spring, 142 wire, and like anything else, the more you use it, the more it kind of breaks in a little bit, even though they are preset. So the gun's smooth, powerful, and we honed it in, as you saw the video clips, when the gun was actually creating a nice group. But it wasn't always like that. Here's some of the groups that we originally got once we started to actually set the gun up and fire it. Now, this is not acceptable in my book when I go through a gun, but this was the original groups that we were getting. Now, it takes a lot to get good groups with a gun like that, and I'm going to share with you what I do. But you can see here that, you know, nothing's really a tight pattern. It's in the area, but it's not a tight pattern. Now, one of the major things with these guns is I still have mine in a corner here. I haven't rebarreled mine. I got a special barrel for that. But so when I get these 125s in to rebarrel them and I set them up, it's not like I have a lot of time with them as far as actually shooting the gun. You know, like if it was mine. But here's one I did in 25 cal, and this is what Doug got with his at 30 yards. Absolutely outstanding groups. I will say, when you go to shoot these guns, this powerful gun, and really any Springer, you so much as change a whisker and your point of impact is going to shift. Okay, that's just the way it is. So when your gun's all together, mechanically sound and all that's there, now it's going to be what's happening with your scope setup. Now I will tell you, with a 125 or 135, thanks to a good friend of mine who gave me the tip, because he uses these all the time, he says you got to use the 2-screw scope stop. So this is what we're going to talk about. And here's the scope stop right there. 2-screw scope stop comes with your guns. Now I can tell you most guys are going to get rid of that, because the problem with the 2-screw scope stop is it shifts your scope up a little further away than you want it to. Now this particular guy was already complaining he wasn't even using that. And he was trying to think, well, what can he do with the butt pad to change it to get him closer to the scope? I haven't seen a cantilever scope mount that has a good, solid clamping action on the side. They all seem to me rinky-dink. Now, I have to look again to see. Maybe I'm wrong, but I went to AliExpress and nothing popped up on there. But meanwhile, let's talk about your scope setup, because it's very important. Because in order for you to get good groups, this gun has to be on target and not moving, and then it comes down to how you're squeezing the trigger. Now, if this sounds boring to you, you can just skip this part and finish up the video, but this is really important. Obviously your scope setup is going to be proper. Now this came with a scope. The idea was we take the barrel that we rebarrel the gun, and then we hone the barrel in by shifting the barrel to align itself once the scope's mounted and the scope reticle has been set to its center position of vertical and horizontal, right? So then we adjust the barrel to shift the point of impact so that when we're aiming at the bullseye, within at least an inch or closer, that's where the gun is hitting. And that way the barrel is lined up with the scope that's set up for the gun, and you don't even have to mess with your reticles, and everything's at its strongest point in the dead center. So with all that, you get down to your scope setup, and if you're not doing this right, you're not going to be getting good groups. Now obviously these guns are not designed for good groups, but you can get this gun to group if you do your part. So your part would be how you set your scope up. Number one is the Picatinny rail. This one came with its own scope for me to set it up, but it had Picatinny rails and I wasn't about to use it. A lot of times it's also been reported that the Picatinny rails are a problem with these guns. Many guys are complaining, hey, I was shooting one thing yesterday, I go out 2 days later, now the gun's shooting this way, and they are just all over the map, inconsistent, they don't understand why. And the first find is you find out they're using a Picatinny rail. So don't use the Picatinny rail. Could be the way the groove's cut, it's not square, whatever it is, it's creating a problem when it really is not supposed to. But it is. Remember, the gun's powerful. So go to a one-piece mount. Now, because I can, and maybe you can too, I ordered some cheap mounts from AliExpress. There are 4-screw mounts on each ring, but they only have 3 screws on the side for the mounting, right? So in that case, well, just scribe a line down the center and then drill and tap and put 2 more screws in. Buy a couple of these if you're going to do that, because you may mess one up. Take your time and do a good job, and you'll have one-piece mount with all these screws in it. And they're beefy screws too. So the idea is to use your scope stop, right? And then put your one-piece mount on it. Now, before you even do that, you got a Hatsan, get a little small bubble level, and get your gun, put a level in the barrel block down there, and set up your gun so the level is reading level. Then, carefully, without moving the gun, shift it to your scope rail, and carefully put it on the scope rail. You don't want to touch the gun, obviously, and see if it's reading the same. It should read the same. And you may find out, hey, you know what? My scope rail isn't exactly perfect. And now you know with your gun, you got something going on with it, and what are you going to do to counterbalance that? But meanwhile, that's one thing you can check out. But the main thing is, how are you going to mount your scope? So let's go through that real quick, and then we'll wrap up this video. Because a lot of guys are really frustrated because they're not getting good groups or whatever. Some guys are really clueless. They're happy at 20 feet hitting a can, and they think the gun's accurate like that. But that's not what we're talking about as far as accuracy. So all right, now you got the gun. You determine your scope rails is even with the barrel block when everything was even and square and level. So now you're good to go there. You got your scope stop on here, right? So far you're looking good. Now you get your mount. Hopefully one with 5 screws or 4 screws, whatever you can get your hands on, that's good. And even if you can get rings with 3 screws on each side, making 6 screws on per ring, that's even better. But now when you go to mount that, you can mount this up tight against your stop and make it nice and tight and go back and forth and do them evenly. Now, as far as setting up the scope with your reticle, with the rings, that's another story altogether. Now, what I want you to do is take the time to set your gun up. You're going to want to put a string line out there and have it hanging with like a plumb bob, right? A masonry string, so that the string by gravity is being held to the vertical position, and when it stops swaying all over the place and settles down, you'll have a vertical line to look at. So then you would set your gun up so that you can see through the scope while it's sitting there before your rings are on. You can see the vertical line. You're all in a line with it. And then you make sure that your gun, again, is level and don't touch it. Look through the scope and get it to where the reticle in the vertical position is now lined up with the string line. And then slowly put your ring clamps on and keep periodically checking it. Once it gets to a point that basically you can't turn the scope around anymore, then you're going to be locked in. So keep doing that. Take your time until you get it honed in as best as possible. And don't forget to double check. Maybe you shifted the barrel block by putting it at a level. So once you have all that working for you, then you have everything set up properly. Now, as far as these guns, right? Most people, including myself, think that everything recoils towards the front, and it does, right? You get a little kick to your shoulder, but when that piston lands at the bottom, everything is shifting forward. It's no different than a car slamming on its brakes, hitting a wall. It's going to slam forward, and everything in the air is going to go forward. Now, the problem is the scope's mounted to the gun, and we all think, well, the scope's going with the gun. Well, actually, what's happening is the scope is basically hanging on for dear life, like you would be if you were in a car, right? And basically the car's going forward, hits the wall, and the scope's hanging on for dear life, and little by little, because the gun goes forward, it's trying to leave the scope behind, right? All the scope's doing is hanging on. And eventually that hanging on gives way, and the scope starts to slip and meander backwards. And that's what happens with these guns. Now, as far as shooting, I don't know what you got for setup. Some guys have these gun rests where they can put it in there and hold level. That's nice. I got one, but I don't even use it. But here's what I do with this gun when I'm in my shop to test fire these guns. I got this particular gun where the SSA bolt is, right? The forearm bolt. I have it on the bag here with a little bean bag, and this whole shooting table's been designed to go through the window and hit my target board. Everything is kind of made that way, including the footrest right here, okay? So I have that. But then as far as getting on the bullseye, you're not going to really hold it still enough to hit that bullseye exact every single time. You're going to shift it one way or another, whether you like it or not. It's just the way it is. But I have the bean bag here. My wife made a couple of bean bags. And what you do for me is if I need to lower down, I just puff up the bag a little bit, and then I have the gun. And as far as grabbing the gun, when the gun's all cocked and loaded, I'll put my foot on the footrest. I grab the gun underneath here, but not under the gun where the bag is, and leave that alone. The gun's pretty long anyway. I don't think I can get my hand down that far. And that'll secure the gun and keep everything stationed there when I do the firing. It's not just on the bag. I got the hand down there, holding it nice and a bit firm. Then I come into the gun like that carefully. I'm still on the bullseye dead center, and now it's going to come down to how you are squeezing the trigger. All these things make a difference. Now, there's 2 ways I was shooting this gun. 2 ways cause different groups. So the first way was you go to the trigger and you remove your travel because you're ready to fire, and then you hit your second stage, and now some guys will pull back till they get to what they know is going to be halfway through the second stage, and then they stop and they wait. And then they get themselves all together, and when they're dead sure, then they jerk the trigger back and they fire it. Now that didn't give me the best groups. What I wound up doing for me was I actually went through the whole cycle again. I got rid of the first stage. I hit my second stage wall, but I didn't do anything at that point. Then I waited till I was ready, all calmed down, and when I began the second stage, I continued with the second stage smoothly, continuously, and easy back until the gun fired on its own. Okay, it wasn't snapping the trigger back. But anyway, for me, that's what gave me the best groups. You would think it would be the other way around, but I'm just telling you how it worked out for me. So there it is in a nutshell, all the stuff that goes into these guns to get the best groups. But anyway, let's get a video clip of the guns, Cerakote. I do have two 130Ss that are in the shop. Now with them, we're going to make custom spring guides and put a powerful spring in them. We're going to see how they are versus the 142 wire we're going with now with a 148 wire. I don't know, never done it before, but I know it has been done, but it just depends what's going to happen, how the gun's going to act. And then we're also going to do the gas ram, and we're going to test both guns to see how they both are. Now I could tell you, with this Springer setup, with the proper custom guide and top hat and all the other work that's been done to this gun, this thing is a smooth, powerful shooter. And I like the spring versus the gas ram. Now the gas ram fires, it hits the wall, it doesn't look back, that's it, that's the end of it. All you do is you get the big crash and the bang, right? But the spring, you have the spring going, the piston lands, but now as the pistons land and you're just feeling that force, the spring's already coming back. It's kind of counterbalancing somewhat some of what just happened inside your gun, and it makes the gun feel better. I love springers when they're set up nice, even in a gun like this. Now, if you buy one of these, and remember the old Springer versions they used to sell at Hatsan, when you fired them, you could feel the whole gun vibrating like that. I mean, it's insane. Well, we don't get any of that with this gun. It's smooth, the spring calms down, and it's a good aftermarket spring from Vortek products, and they're the ones you'd want to use. But anyway, let's get a close-up look of the Cerakote finish, and then we'll be out of here. All right. So see the butt pad on the 135 does have a bolt, and he's thinking about taking that apart to see if he can get closer to the gun. And you don't have a whole lot of room there if you want to take a bandsaw and cut that down, unless you want to do some stock surgery, make it happen either way. But that's up to the owner's discretion. So here is the scope stop with the two screws. And as far as the scope being further away, you're just going to have to deal with it. That's just, you know, sometimes the cookie crumbles the way it crumbles. That's it. But anyway, there's the Cerakote finish in a glacier black, and it is a high gloss finish, Cerakote high gloss finish. And Murphy's Law struck. I wound up putting the front handbrake on there, and of course I had to shift it because it wasn't where it was, and it marred up the barrel a little bit. But anyway, at least we know it's a good fit. So there it is in a nutshell. We have a good, powerful 135 with a good pellet to bore fit and barrel. Everything's honed in. She's a smooth, powerful, accurate shooter. Well, thanks, guys, for hanging out. Stay tuned for the next video, which will be a while. But meanwhile, be safe. Take care.